Well, it has been a long wait for these guys, but the wait is finally over. Today's the day that they're going out with the cows. That's what's going on today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. So yes, today is the big day for these guys. They're going out with the cows within minutes. But before we can do that, we need to first kind of introduce them to each other without a fence dividing them. If you're new to the channel, or if you haven't been keeping current with the videos, this bull in the first pen here is mine, and the bull that is outside belongs to a friend of mine. So I brought him in here at the beginning of the week, and I've been leaving them separated to try to avoid a big blowout fight. So they've been able to get used to each other through the fence, and I'm sure they're still gonna fight a little bit when I put them out together, but I'm hoping that doing things this way sort of minimizes that. Over the last week, they've definitely gotten used to each other, and it's kind of funny how when the new bull first came here, he charged up to that fence and, you know, he was all fight. He was ready for it. And now, a couple days later, they kind of seem like they're buddies. I mean, I don't ever hardly catch that new bull getting away from my bull. He's always laying down right there at the fence next to mine. So they've accepted each other to some degree. But like I say, I just don't see them getting in together and not fighting a little bit, because they have to establish that dominance, that pecking order. Is just natural animal behavior. I just don't want these guys to hurt each other. I don't really mind if they fight. I just don't want them hurting each other, because I need them to be able to perform. So there's really nothing left to this but to do it. So I'm gonna set some cameras up and we'll put these boys together and see what they do. Well, I can't say I'm disappointed, because actually what just happened here was exactly what I was hoping would happen, and they couldn't care less about each other. But I have to say, I thought there was going to be a little bit more than that. I mean, they didn't even barely look at each other. Well, I guess I spoke too soon, and that's kind of typical with bulls. Everything's fine until it's not. So it looks like they pretty well got it out of their system. I'm not really sure who won. Either way, neither one of them are limping, and they both still look like they're in good shape. Hopefully they're not too wore out to breed now, but I think they're gonna probably kind of keep going at it a little bit until we get some cows out and kind of shift their focus. So right now they're focused on each other, and we don't want that. first got these guys turned out here, I thought, man, they're a lot more interested in the grass than they are in the cows. But as I started watching them more closely, I noticed that my bull really locked in on number 59 here, and it wasn't long before he was jumping her. As soon as he jumped 59, and I believe he did breed her, this other bull, it really got his attention, and he was kind of like, whoa, 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 if you're doing that, then I better get on it too. And now he's out chasing cows around. Cattle breeding behavior is actually kind of interesting, I think, because there's a lot more that goes into it than just a bull jumping on a cow. There is a bit of a courting procedure that, you know, you can see the bulls, you know, they'll kind of meander through the herd and figure out who's in heat. Once he's picked one, he'll graze right next to her for a little while. You'll see him sniff her back in, and I think that's just to kind of confirm that, yes, she is in heat. And then, you know, after this goes on for a few minutes, I would say, like you saw with my bull, he figured out she was in heat and he jumped her and got the job done. I'm sure that some people might wonder why I go through the trouble of removing the bulls from the herd and then releasing them on a set date. And the reason for doing that is that way I can keep all my cows on the same breeding schedule, and I'll get all my calves hitting the ground at about the same time of year. The reason why this is important is because I don't want cows to be having calves when the weather is really bad, there's a lot of mud, it's cold, rainy, all that stuff. It's a lot better for me to have calves hit the ground in the spring once the weather starts to get a little bit nicer. The other advantage of having a defined calving season is that when it comes time to wean, or when it comes time to sell the calves at the auction, they're all roughly the same size, and that's a lot more attractive to buyers, because if they want to buy pen lots, they're going to buy calves that are all within, 50, 100 pounds of each other. They don't want calves that are, 9 months old, 6 months old, and kind of all across the board. And lastly, it helps me match my cattle's nutritional requirements with what the grass has to offer. In other words, during the last 3 months of pregnancy and during the first 3 months after the calf is born, that's when the mother cow's nutritional needs are at their highest. So I want that time period to sort of coincide with when the grass's production and quality is at its highest, so that when she needs that high quality forage, is just out here. I don't have to supplement her or give her anything extra. It's right here ready for the taking. Having a defined calving season is something that actually a lot of people don't do. They just leave their bulls out with the herd year round, and they just kind of get calves when they get calves. For me, it's worth it to take the extra time and go to the extra trouble to remove the bulls from the herd during a certain time of year so that I can maintain that defined calving season. You see how all my calves are roughly the same size? That's no accident. I also want to talk about a question that I get asked almost every time I put out a video about bulls, and that is in regards to AI. Why don't I artificially inseminate the cows? And there's a couple of reasons for that. A simplistic explanation of AI breeding or artificial insemination would be as follows. And this is going to be hard for me to explain because I feel like there's some words that I probably can't say because it'll get this video flagged. So I'm going to try to speak very generally, and I think that you should be able to get the gist of it. But basically, what you're going to do is you're going to give your cows some hormonal injections that's going to get them all to cycle at roughly the same time. And when you determine that your herd's going into heat, you're going to get some genetic material from another bull that's could live in Australia. He could live across the world. And his genetic material is going to come here and be injected into the cow, not via a needle, but a pipette, into the proper location that it would need to be for conception to take place. And now that cow is bred by a bull that she has never even seen. The advantages to this are that you can access genetics from anywhere. Any trait that you're chasing, you can just hop online, find a bull that offers that, get that shipped to your door, and breed your cows with it. So in that case, it's actually pretty cool, because for seed stock breeders especially, or people that are chasing certain traits, This actually does make a lot of sense. Not to mention the fact that there might be a bull thousands of miles away and he might cost, you know, 30, 40,000, just some amazing bull that I could never afford to own. I could never justify spending that kind of money on an animal like that, but I could afford to buy his genetic material, and then I could access those genetics in my herd. So AI definitely has its advantages when it comes to that. The other situation where I think AI really makes sense is for people that only have several cows. You know, if you've got, I mean, I would even say 5 to 10 cows. At 10, you're you're flirting with being able to justify a bull, but I would say 5 or less, it doesn't make sense for you to keep your own bull. You're probably going to be a lot better off to AI breed with a herd that small. I also think that AI breeding makes a lot of sense if you are running a dairy herd, because you're handling the cattle every single day. You've got them in feed stanchions, you can give them those injections, and it's not a big deal. With beef cattle, on the other hand, there's a few more factors at play. I don't want to be gathering up my entire herd to give them the hormones and then gather them up again to get them all bred. In a dairy scenario, that's completely different, because you're gathering the cattle every single day to milk, they're coming in to eat, and it's a lot easier to get AI breeding done that way. Now, this is not to say that large beef herds don't AI, because some of them do. And especially seed stock breeders that are breeding females or breeding bulls, they're going to be the ones that are most likely to AI and even go as far as like embryo transfer and some other pretty highly complicated things. For a beef herd like what I've got, to me, natural service just makes a lot more sense. And I guess it mostly comes down to labor and management. If I was to AI breed my herd, like I said, I'm going to have to gather them to give them hormone. I'm going to have to gather them again to get them bred. And then I'm going to have to gather them again to make sure that they took. Because that's the other thing about AI breeding, you know, even with a herd small like mine, if you were to AI breed all these cows, you'd be a fool to not also put a bull out with them. Because a good AI breeder, the last number I heard, and this was several years ago, so they could have gotten better by now, but an 80% conception rate with AI breeding is considered pretty good. So in that scenario, you're still putting a bull out. They refer to it as a cleanup bull. So I still need a bull. And for the extra trouble and effort of AI breeding, I just don't feel like I get enough return on that time investment to make it worthwhile. For natural service, all I've got to do is this. Just open a gate and let the boys loose and they'll do all the work for me. So there are certainly advantages to AI breeding. I'm not saying that they're not. What I am saying is that for me, in my situation, and for the end product that I need my calves to be, natural service works fine, and it's a lot easier for me to do. And with that, I think I will leave these boys to their work. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.